Hello and welcome to Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk Live, and we are back second time in our new location here in MP Town. We kind of tucked away in this building. We're kind of that's what we are. We're never mind. I was gonna.
I don't know where you're going there.
No, anyway, I got tripped up a little bit. We are watching Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk Live. I think it's going to be an exciting episode. I'm here with Hunter Moeller, as usual, sporting some the hoodie. We got Nikki Brackets over there watching
Nikki Brackets
news, and we're going to get into our it's going to be a controversial third segment today after the second commercial. We talk about the bracket challenge and then some other stuff with NCAA. But we got some good old high school sports to start us out, Hunter. Isn't that exciting when we have some good old high school sports to are you excited to be back into the spring yet, or are you just cold right now?
I hope it stays like above. It'd be nice to stay above like 60 degrees. That'd be nice, especially when you're walking out. And golf isn't. Well, I shouldn't say it's all kind of bad when it's cold, especially. It is. At least in golf, you can kind of walk around, get behind a tree a little bit. But in soccer, you kind of got to stand right out there in the elements. And I was talking to Brant Van Welden yesterday, which is the Washington Activity Director, and I was like, I told him I was heading over to some soccer after some golf, and I was like, I think it might have been around this time last year where it was sleeting the whole game, and we had to stand out there, and it was like a close game the whole entire time, and I was like freezing. But yeah, so
was that a Mount Pleasant Washington game?
That one was cold too, but I can't remember who they were playing that last time. It wasn't as bad as that time, but I think I remember texting you like I can't feel my hand.
Yeah, I think I remember that too. I can't believe how. Or I can't believe how, but just because of the nature of it, the three soccer fields that we're at the most are Mount Pleasant at East Lake Park, which is
wide open
with
Washington
Wellness crazy.
Wellness Park.
Yeah, Washington Wellness Park,
wide open.
Like there's nothing to stop the wind at all.
Yep.
And then Fairfield, if they're at the high school,
they're kind of down low a little.
Kind of down low, but if they're at Dexter, which they are a lot, wide open basically. So you're freezing when you're at soccer.
So to answer your question. Yeah, I'm excited. Especially, I really like doing playing some golf in my free time. So every time I go to a golf meet, it like really makes me want to pick up a club and start swinging. But yeah,
pick up a club and start swinging. Golf ball. I never really started golfing until probably I started covering golf. Yeah. I don't think I golfed once in college. Maybe once or twice. And then, but I really got into it. Not that I'm any good, but I really got into it when I started just like seeing the golf course, and I'm like, dude. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I have the first game here. I have our yearly annual tradition of Mount Pleasant playing against Columbus WMU in girls and boys soccer to start things off. We'll start with the girls because that's who started off yesterday, and Mount Pleasant now 2-0 after a 7-0 win over Columbus WMU. Something interesting, they Mount Pleasant's first win was against MIPA Mediapolis, and they won 3-2. And Ellie Manning, who's shout out to all the New London listeners because there's a New London Mount Pleasant co-op, and she's been a star for Mount Pleasant the last 3 years.
Yep.
She missed her freshman year because of the COVID year, canceled spring sports. She had 3 goals in their first game. Yesterday, those 7 goals are spread out 4 different ways. And, in fact, it was Sharisa Werda that had 3 goals, hat trick for the Panthers. Haley Parrott, who just started playing soccer this year. You heard her name a lot in basketball. Probably hear her name a lot more next year in basketball. She had 2. Tori Wilson, 3 assists. And Allie Heaton, shout out to Mike, our morning show host. His daughter pitched a shutout. Only needed to save 3, but she saved all 3. So Mount Pleasant looked pretty good. It was pretty back and forth through the first half, and then Mount Pleasant just started to lean on him a little bit in the second half. And then the boys' game, Hunter, you want to guess how many soccer games Mount Pleasant won all of last year? You probably about remember.
I think it was 1.
It was 1.
Yep.
And that's the exact same amount of games they won last night. They
there you go.
Columbus WMU had their number since 2019. Mount Pleasant had played Columbus twice, 4-0 and 6-0 wins for the Wildcats. Last night it was flipped on its head a little bit. A very young Mount Pleasant team that is now coached by Rocco Russo. Won in Coach Russo's debut. It was really close. It was 0-0 at halftime. Jonah Zimmer, a sophomore, scored right away in the second half for Mount Pleasant, and then there was a huge scoring drought. In fact, Columbus, I thought, had the better of the chances during the scoring drought, Oscar Alcala had a couple of chances where he would just bust through 2 defenders. One time he just sailed it over the crossbar, and he couldn't quite put one in. Then the last 6 minutes, Mount Pleasant got a couple of goals. Zimmer had one, and also Colbean Oatsby had one. That's, by the way, that I believe he's related to Anna Oatsby, who graduated a couple years from Mount Pleasant. I always messed up the T and the S in that name. I wanted it to be Otsby, but it's Ostby. But he had a goal. So Mount Pleasant 3-0 over Columbus. And the Panthers are a little red hot to start the year, which is good because they got quite the challenge on Thursday playing Washington. You got to see a little Washington soccer last night.
Yeah, it will jump into the girls game, or the girls first. Both Washington teams are kind of red hot here early in the season. The Washington girls, saw them last night, headed over there after I mentioned some golf, and they were taking on Oskaloosa. It ended up being a 7-3 win for the Demons. They're now 3-0 to start the season. Been playing extremely well. Last night, the first 20 minutes, they made it 2-0. Oskaloosa answered back, and then before the halftime whistle, it just kept piling on. I got there kind of later in the second by the time I was done taking pictures. So, but this is kind of what I got from talking around or whatever. But then it was 4-1 at the half, pretty commanding lead in the second. Just kind of more of the same. The Demons kept the gas on and ended up scoring 3 more in the second half. Oskaloosa to get 2 of their own, but the Washington just hung on. Like I said, kept it rolling and pressure on, and another big win for them. They're now, as I mentioned, they're now 3-0. Last night to lead them, Giselle Marcelino, who we kind of talked a little bit about being really good for a young player last year, scored her first goals of the season last night, finished with 4 on 5 shots, a pretty efficient night there.
That is efficient.
And then Angeline Anderson and Ruby Withoff both scored as well. And I believe the one of the 7 goals was an own goal, I believe, because they only had 6 tallied on there. So, overall, great performance for them. For their 3 wins, obviously the win against Oskaloosa. They also had a couple close matches there at the beginning of the season. Really close one was Central Lee, 2-1, and then Columbus, I believe still Columbus, WMU with the girls' side too.
Yep, it is.
2-0 in that one. So, Washington's been one of the top soccer teams that we cover around here, and they're looking good here in the early season for sure.
One thing I'll say about Washington soccer in general, let me do the quick addition here. Between the girls and the boys through now 5 games, Washington is outscoring opponents 27-1. 27-4, sorry, 27-4, because Oski had 3 yesterday. And another thing, you mentioned Mount Pleasant and Oski are playing on Mount Pleasant and Washington are playing on Thursday. Yeah. The boys are in Mount Pleasant, girls are in Washington. And if I could go ahead and click on that game on Varsity Bound to make sure this is accurate, I'm going to read off, since 2019, I'm going to read off what has happened between Mount Pleasant and Washington. Now, this doesn't tell me overtime. There are a lot of these are in overtime.
Right.
2019, Washington 2-1, Mount Pleasant 3-2, Washington 4-3, Washington 5-4, Mount Pleasant 5-4. So those are 1-goal games, and I think over half of those are overtime games.
Last year's second game of the season was overtime because it was a cold one, and I remember it was an absolutely crazy finish.
Yeah, 5-4 overtime was last year. Both games went to overtime. As I click through here, let me just see here. Let's just go ahead and see, because it was a fun stat. Coach Scott Stroud of Mount Pleasant was reminding me of this yesterday, that they play overtime. That 4-3 was in overtime. 3-2 was in overtime. That 2-1 was in overtime. And that 1-0. Every single game I mentioned was an overtime game.
That's insane.
They've played overtime. How many games did I just read off? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in a row between Mount Pleasant and Washington girls that went to overtime.
Man.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they've really battled in the last couple of years, obviously. Last year, for sure, covering them. But yeah, it's been as tight as a contest as pretty much in any sport, I'd say. Yeah. That's probably the closest you're going to see. And
use the transitive property. Washington won. Was that at Columbus when they won 2-0 or at home? Either way.
Yeah.
Washington beat Columbus 2-0, and Mount Pleasant beat them 3-0. So that's a very similar score. So you can and that's going to be one of the best contests in the entire conference
Yeah.
this year. I did see Fairfield. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't talk about the boys, but
Oh, yes.
I was just gonna say on the boys' side, they're playing Mount Pleasant, as you mentioned, at Mount Pleasant. The boys are 2-0 right now. Pretty hot start of the season. They've had no problem. They played Columbus in their opening game, 7-0 in that one. They're pitching shutouts right now. Highland 10-0 in the second game. So last year they were young. They pretty much returned their entire
They're
team.
stacked.
So and they're all like juniors this year. I think there's only like 3-4 seniors. I have to double check, but I mean, being how young they are, and they were so good last year, and they're just going to keep getting better in here in the early season. They're looking really good. Like I mentioned, 2-0, and haven't given up a goal and scoring 17 themselves. So we'll see what's going to happen. They take on Mount Pleasant. Usually is a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, and then I would say that going into this year, Washington and Fort Madison are probably the favorites.
Yep.
Fairfield's always been good. Last year they were a little down, and this year they're without Andrew Tuhill, who would have been probably their one of the top scorers in the entire conference that got hurt. I did see them play Waco in Waco's first game. Fairfield won that 3-0 last week. First off, it's fun that Waco has soccer.
Yeah,
First
time.
they have it on their little football practice field. They have the concession stand open. So Chad Edeker, he's going to do a good job of putting that on. And Waco did a pretty good job of sticking with Fairfield. Eventually, Fairfield's speed and experience helped them pull away. But the Trojans play at Fort Madison on Thursday.
And Fort Madison last year, I believe, was the top team in the conference.
They're the defending champions. They haven't lost a conference game in a while because they might be two-time because I think a couple of years ago, Fairfield might have beat them once a couple of years ago.
And I know they had a lot of seniors on last year's squad.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the Bloodhounds look this year and see what Fairfield can do against them.
For sure, we will. And we will also see about a little bit of golf and a little bit of tennis. We'll have a little bit of track talk too after this first commercial. So stick with us. We got plenty of show to go. And 2 minutes.
We'll be back.
Federation Bank is a locally owned bank providing award-winning customer service. We believe that we are more than just a federation of banks, but a federation of communities, serving Brighton, Richland, Wellman, and Washington, Iowa. Federation Bank's highly skilled staff is here to make sure you are able to accomplish your personal and professional goals, whatever they may be. Federation Bank, your family bank.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a type of care that focuses on living. Servicing a 7-county area, the Hospice of Washington County staff of nurses, social work, hospice aides, spiritual and grief support, volunteers, music and massage therapists are able to provide free end-of-life care where the patient lives. We write wills, give consent for organ donation, but rarely is there a plan for what we would want the final phase of our lives. At Hospice of Washington County, we encourage our patients to be in charge of their healthcare decisions while maintaining quality of life.
At the Capper Auto Group, we put our customers' needs first and understand that everyone is as different as the vehicle they select. We offer new Ford, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, and Ram vehicles in a friendly environment that puts you in the driver's seat. When it comes to service, we maintain factory-trained technicians and competitive pricing. The Capper Auto Group still believes that service after the sale provides the best customer experience. Come see the Capper experience for yourself.
Tammy takes the time and has the personal interest in each one of us. I don't worry about what's going to happen because I know my policy is taken care of.
She pulls what I need and puts it together, which is the program I get from her.
Every year she calls around September or so and says, there's changes again, and I'm going to do the best thing for you. It's been perfect. She does a great job.
We are back. Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk Live, presented by the Southeast Iowa Union. Hunter, if I wanted to watch Sports Talk Live, let's just say I stumbled upon this show, where would I go to on purpose watch it?
On purpose?
Yes, and when?
You can go to Washington Live's YouTube, Washington Live's Facebook, and then we have Mount Pleasant and Fairfield Live Facebook as well. If you don't want to see our beautiful faces, you can listen to our beautiful voices on Spotify. And there's video on Spotify as well too, if you want to do it like that. But I mean, I don't know why you just go to YouTube and watch video, but that's just me.
It's true. I don't know.
I
wonder if you could.
Although I do watch some podcasts on Spotify, and I guess I watch the video on there just because it's Spotify, and I'm just like whatever. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Could we? Do you think that artificial intelligence has progressed enough to where we could just have it.
program ourselves to act like we're actually sitting here, but it's just our AI.
Oh, that's a good point. I was actually going to say if we could get the entire script of Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk from watch
AI, I got you.
and then get all the words that we said, and then can we translate our voices into being like The Rock and Vin Diesel or something? Do you think that the technology has went that far?
I'm sure you could do that.
And then we could replay an entire
Maybe.
Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk as The Rock and Vin Diesel or whoever.
You probably could.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe something down the road. Anyway, we got a little golf to talk about, and you were first on the tees this year because I haven't been to any golf meets yet, but you had one yesterday. Had a lot of our teams in it, so tell me what went down.
Well, the Washington, Mount Pleasant, and Fairfield girls were in Washington last night, and on the boys' side, the 3 teams that we cover were in Fairfield. So on the girls' side, obviously Washington, been a perennial team for before I got here too, 5 years, won a state championship, I believe, like 3 years ago or something like that. They're looking good here in the early season again. Obviously, they returned a lot of familiar names at their meet last night. The Demons took the win with a 173 final score. Fairfield finished second with 207, and Mount Pleasant did not post the team score along with Burlington, who was there. And then Keokuk finished third at 212, and Fort Madison fourth at 303. Individually, Washington's McKenna Conrad came up one shot short of being the medalist, finished with the 41. Burlington's Lauren Briggs took the top spot with a 40. There's pretty much kind of 2 to 3 golfers from on the girls' side that really kind of battle for that top medalist, at least seems from last year. Kaylin Long's one of those who was second for Washington. She finished third with a 42. On Fairfield's side, Viola Welsh, who was kind of Fairfield's leading golfer for most of the season last year, finished with a 46. And then Macy Rayburn followed second for the Trojans with 52. For Mount Pleasant, Kylie Walderbach, who was Mount Pleasant's number 2 last year, shot a 56 for the Panthers there, and Elena Holkamp finished with a 70. And the girls' teams will be back on the course. They'll be heading to Fairfield in their next meet on Thursday. And on the boys' side, Washington looking real good again. They got a lot of young talent that came in, freshmen this year, that are playing really well here in the early season. Washington won the meet in Fairfield with a 145. The Trojans finished second with a 166, and Mount Pleasant third with a 184. Leading the Demons was Rajan Roth with a 33, and I believe his brother, I'm pretty sure they're brothers, Roman Roth, one stroke behind his brother with a 34. Someone say if it's not his brother, because then I'll kind of feel bad about that.
Yeah, I think they are too, but yeah.
I think so. Know. But for Fairfield, Austin Lisk with a 39 to lead the Trojans, and Dev Eisner with a 41. For Mount Pleasant, Nick Matheny led the Panthers with a 40, and Reese Kaufman followed Matheny with a 43. And the boys will be back, and they're going to be heading to Fort Madison in their next meet on Thursday. So some really nice scores from Washington's playing extremely well, but some really nice scores from all our teams there.
Hard to beat a team that's shooting a couple 34. And all 3 teams have kids that can compete for the conference title. The boys' race is always very close.
And we kind of saw it last year. I said Viola Welsh kind of led the Trojans all season, like shooting, and then Maya Tuhill came and punched a ticket to state late last year in that. That's right. In the district meet or whatever you want to, whatever you call it. The meet to go to state.
The regional meet in golf.
She came and played really well and got a ticket to state. So
That's right.
So anybody can do it.
That's right. I just had a little bit of flashbacks to the state girls golf meet last year. Do you remember they had the 18th hole? They messed up the pin location and everyone was getting 15, 16s in them.
Yeah.
You mentioned Maya Tuhill, and I remember talking to her, and that was one of the things we talked about. That was crazy.
I remember you were texting me and you said,
"This is wild."
Everybody's shooting like an insane score on this one.
Yeah,
you had to get it right up there, or just roll back down, or
it was crazy. So much that it got statewide, national news even. The pin was it was on the slope, and with how they watered it or whatever, the greens were fast, and it was on a big hill, and it was just impossible. You literally had to watch it go up and then trickle down and just try and sink it in. And so there were girls that were shooting 13, 14, and I was the first one on the scene because I think Maya was the first group to go, and so it was wild.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for golf because we have a lot of great golfers, and like I said, anybody can, just you go through the season, try to get better, and anybody can. Just depends how you play in that regional meet. Anybody can make it, even if you, haven't shot against the best all season. If you put your best in, you're good to go.
So those are some long trips when we get to stay golf.
Oh yeah.
Tennis. We had a little tennis last night. Now I have an admission, something I'm not very proud of.
Uh-oh.
I have apologies to hand out. I have to apologize to the Mount Pleasant girls tennis team, and this is why. I was covering the games in Mount Pleasant last night.
Yep.
At East Lake, soccer games.
You're
at
right
East
over
Lake.
there. Right over there.
The tennis court
300
is
yards away.
300 yards away. I knew that there was tennis going on.
Probably not even that, actually.
I knew that I had to cover the soccer game and go to tennis, then go back to soccer. I got wrapped up in conversation. I don't know what happened, but towards the end of the boys' soccer game, I turned around. I was like, "Oh, someone's leaving. I wonder what they're leaving so far. Wonder what they're leaving for." And Dave Schneider was like, "Oh, I think they're at the tennis meet." And I was like, "Oh no!" And I kind of like ran over and I saw if they're still playing. They were done. So I don't know what I was thinking. I think that's the first time I've ever done that. To just completely miss something that I was supposed to take pictures of. So the pictures in the paper today, or at least online, I don't know if they ran in the actual paper. I've got a file photo when it should have been a live photo, and that live photo should have been of Bethany Drury because she was the lone winner for the Mount Pleasant girls tennis team yesterday. They had suffered an 8-1 loss at home to Keokuk, and she won the number 5 ranked singles game 8-2. So ran away with it. Unfortunately, not much else wins wise for Mount Pleasant. Ellie Situmyoung and Mary Kate Peterson lost 8-1. 8-1. Both of them lost 8-1. That's the number 1 and 2 player. Eva Rounsville lost 8-3. Victoria Smith lost 8-3. Aubrey Richmond lost 8-2. And in doubles, they went down 8-2, 8-4, 8-3 between the number 1, 2, and 3 teams. So 0-2 start for the young Panthers. And Keokuk's usually pretty good at tennis, so we'll see how the girls' tennis thing pans out. Fairfield's a perennial power, and they've lost a lot of talent the last couple years or so. So we'll see how that works out. Fairfield girls have already beaten Fort Madison, I believe. Yes, 5-4. So they're up there. Fairfield boys, who are bringing back a lot, including a couple of state qualifiers in
Flanagan
and Haynes. Garrett Flanagan and Jace Haynes. They had stomped Fort Madison 9-0 in their first meet. They went and play Ottumwa, and the Bulldogs have some for real tennis players over there. I remember that from last year that Ottumwa was getting pretty good at tennis. 9-0 Ottumwa, which is pretty crazy because, as I said, Fairfield's they got some of the better players in our entire area. So Garrett Flanagan lost number 1 match 6-2, 6-2. Jace Haynes lost 6-4, 6-0. Dill Hurlin 6-2, 6-2. Ethan Cass lost 6-3, 6-1. Riley Anderson lost 6-2, 6-0. And Nico Emerson lost 6-1, 6-0. And then the doubles teams all went defeated as well. So that was a rare loss for Fairfield. I'm excited to see last year Fairfield, Mount Pleasant, Fort Madison. They all had teams. Washington does not have a team, by the way. So we'll see how many times I get tricked on that this year, where I realize that we haven't covered Washington tennis in a while, and then
you realize, oh wait,
they don't have a team. But so that's kind of where we are on the tennis happenings right now, and it's still early on.
Yeah.
But
it should be exciting because we have some kids that returned from last year that are really good. Obviously, Mount Pleasant on the boys' side, when Van Sickle and
Jake
Ensminger were one of the better duos. And when Flanagan and I remember you being at a meet when Flanagan and Haynes played those two, and it was like you said it was a great match.
Yeah, it was like a showdown. Last year, Flanagan and Haynes had this. They went to state by upsetting a Xavier team, which. In tennis, man, Fairfield always hosts the regional tournament, boys and girls, and you have Maharishi, by the way, who's got some studs coming back.
Some great players.
You've got Xavier that comes down. You've got other private schools that'll come down because the East is so stacked that it's really hard to get through, and that was really fun last year. Yeah, Haynes and Flanagan beat Van Sickle and Ensminger for the conference championship last year in doubles, and I believe that Mount Pleasant team had beaten them earlier in the year. So it's a fun little rivalry. Yeah. So you got to see a little bit of track last week. And you had a bit from that, but any early impressive come out of your first meet over there in Mount Pleasant?
Well, you got to say the Washington boys are putting out some
are.
great scores. Obviously, you can't not mention Elijah Morris. Obviously, 2-time defending 400 meter Class 3A state champion. He's got the number 1 time in the 100 meter right now. Did have the last time I checked, he had the number 1 time in the 200, and obviously the number 1 time in the 400. Dealing with an injury, so he didn't run at Mount Pleasant.
Oh, really?
He's obviously one of the best probably track athletes we have so far.
Definitely.
Around here. Kane Brown showed out in high jump once again. Obviously, he was 3rd, I believe, in Class 2A. I think last year, 3rd or 4th, and he finished 2nd behind a Iowa City High kid. There's just a lot of great athletes. Those are kind of the ones that are sticking out to me.
Yeah.
The Mount Pleasant, Bill Davidson is great at 100 the 200 as well. He had the number
3 time, and he has it right now. I'm looking at it right now. It's Morris 1 and Davidson 3. That's
some of
the
the ones
entire
that are sticking
state.
out, like top in the state. Obviously, Cade Benjamin, New London, one of the top jumpers in the state. Defending Class 1A state champion. New London wasn't there. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of some of
Tristan Miller, number 3 in the 110 hurdles right now. If you go through on Varsity Bound and just scroll through, Kane Brown, 4th in the high jump.
Gabe Hemsworth is, I think, number one time in the 400 hurdles.
Now number 2.
Number 2 time in the 400 hurdles. So
it's 1-2 not Union.
We have a lot of kids around here, and on the girls' side, obviously Mid Prairie is perennial power. Yeah. I think Mid Prairie won. I have to go back and look at the story. Don't have it up right now, but Mid Prairie won probably 80% of the girls' events. It was kind of,
and that was a pretty stacked class too. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see.
Washington distance medley's great.
Braid Hartman for Washington 4th in the shot put right now.
Yep.
So
and discus, he's been winning a lot too. So
you got 2nd in one of those and 8th in the other last year. We'll have some more track meets. There's supposed to be a Fairfield girls track meet tonight.
Yep.
Canceled.
Yeah.
So
Washington was supposed to go to Williamsburg.
That got canceled. Yep, that got canceled.
Up north, I think it's supposed to be a little bit worse, but I think it's supposed to be kind of bad everywhere. But
it's gonna be really bad tonight after dark. So everyone stay up or have somebody stay up. We might be going. We don't even know. We might be going to Sarah's aunt's house because they have a better basement where the kids can actually sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna be storming like crazy tonight.
Yeah.
But then it's gonna get up to mid-70s in a couple days.
I know. We feel it out right now. It's like 80 degrees. No wonder it's gonna storm. We're supposed to get up to like
I know
80 today.
Yeah, that's too bad. I'm glad we missed. Well, I'm glad we missed it down here. But prayers to the Wellman, Keota. Yeah, those guys got hit.
We went up to Coralville right after on Sunday or no Saturday.
Saturday.
Went up to Coralville on Saturday, and they were. I'm sure you saw those pictures. They were still cleaning it up, and that there was still a truck flipped over there and on right off 2nd Street there when you come into Coralville. So,
there we go.
Hopefully nothing like that tonight. But
hopefully nothing. Can it just pass us? Can I just not do it?
Right.
Like we had all this cold. Just pass us. Let's have some good weather.
Right.
Well, we're gonna have some good conversation.
Yeah, we
maybe
are.
after this next commercial break. When you come back, we're gonna wrap up our bracket challenge with some controversy in the men's bracket challenge that we talked about last week, and some controversy in the women's. What?
Yes, I was just saying,
championship. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna dive into some controversial issues when we come back. So stick around.
Protection is important, especially when you're talking about your dreams, which is why we're going to keep you covered with plans that can save you up to 23% when you bundle your home and auto. That's protection.
Family owned and operated by Andy and Sarah Ross, Ross Auto has been your vehicle repair and maintenance headquarters since 1935. We specialize in all makes of cars and light-duty trucks. With our variety of available services, let us help you keep rolling and your vehicle operating efficiently. Services include general auto repair, alignments, brakes, fuel injection, and more. Schedule your appointment today at 319-653-5656. That's 319-653-5656. Bring the kids and share the memories from steam engines, antique cars and trucks, tractors, gas engines, and horses. Maybe your memories are of great food from the North Village to the Log Village, or going to one of the amazing concerts. This is the place where memories are made. Make plans now to enjoy the history of the past at the 2023 Midwest Old Thrashers Reunion, August 31st through September 4th in Mount Pleasant. Visit oldthrashers.com for more details.
And we are back. Oh, I was told to eat the mic during this next segment because the mic's being a little finicky. And I was told that by our 2023 men's NCAA tournament bracket challenge champion,
Nick Stepp.
I was going to say asterisk, but there's really no asterisk on Nick.
I use performance enhancers, so.
Yeah, obviously. I'm looking at the standings.
It came from. It's like Mark McGuire. So,
Yeah.
Mark McGuire, where when he was like a rookie, was skinny as heck, and then came out the next year and was like jacked out.
That's right. That's right. And Sam,
Yeah, I'm just roided
challenge.
yeah, you're roided up like Mark McGuire, and not Sammy Sosa. He was clean. New York Times is a fraud for that
Sure about
report. Anyway, so obviously, if you look at our standings, a little guy who follows us on Twitter today named T-Rez
Yep.
jumped in here a little late.
Last week.
Like last week.
Last Tuesday we talked.
We caught him. We would like at least I want at least like a message, T-Rez, if you're watching.
If you're watching, when did you join this thing?
I want to know at
I
least
know for
when.
a fact it wasn't at the start.
Yeah, because it was my bad. I should have locked it.
Because I looked on Monday and I was literally thinking coming to the show that I was going to talk about Nick being the only one in the top 10 like, that had UConn. And then the next day it was
showed
like,
up.
oh, there's someone with UConn now in the top 10.
I know. Yeah, anyway.
It kind of soils it for me a little bit, not being able to see my name
At the top.
alone at the top.
Yeah.
It does. But you know what? You'll have that drive next year. But as far as I'm concerned, unless T-Rez can Twitter message us a explanation that clears him of any wrongdoing, even accidental, not that he would have just jumped in at the last second.
Well,
Guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, that's how we roll. Go ahead, Hunter.
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't know? What I was
You
going
have to hack it to even get in there. There's no way that we wouldn't have seen that before,
Yeah.
Because we never talked about T-Rez once.
No.
I know.
And also, I want to give a shout out to, I was telling Nick this, Sean Ack. I want to know who that is.
He had a great bracket in Alabama.
If UConn wouldn't have won, he would have won.
Yeah.
He was number one.
The entire time.
The entire
The
time.
entire time. Yeah.
And he had Alabama. And
Alabama messed
Nick
him
and I
up.
looked, and it was like his last points were Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane that he was still number 2 or whatever with.
He probably did better in the first rounds than the guy who actually ended up winning. There's two people that ended up winning.
He got 230 in the first round. He got 210.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, I mean like the whole thing, but that
The
was
whole thing.
I might have been talking a little bit crazily there. But yeah, so there you go. We're gonna get Nick a trophy unless T-Rez can somehow present some evidence that he didn't join late, and he's gonna be the king. And we're probably just gonna call him the king of the brackets from now until next
I like
year.
Nikki Brackets.
Nikki
That was pretty
Brackets.
good.
Nikki Brackets. That's just your name.
Nikki Brackets.
You kind of look like a Nikki Brackets today with just the combo of
you
the
got the
mustache, the
Mariners going on.
Mariners.
I like that hat.
Thank you.
Gosh, I used to love playing on Nintendo 64 MLB, playing at Safeco, because if you hit it in the right spots, you get inside the park home runs.
Oh my gosh.
Do they even play Safeco Field anymore?
I think it's like T-Mobile
Yeah.
Park now.
T-Mobile.
Why is it always got to be a phone line?
I know. I'm Team US Cellular anyway until T-Mobile
US
starts
Cellular Center.
advertising.
Chicago US Cellular Center.
Yeah. Yeah. I have this.
Isn't it? United Center.
United Center.
Yeah.
The US Cellular Center is in Cedar Rapids,
Rapids.
which is the old powerhouse, right? It used to be the Alliant Energy powerhouse, which, since we're going to talk, we're going to divulge into a tiny bit of professional wrestling talk here in a second. Because we're going to talk about the You Can't See Me, which is professional wrestling.
Oh.
And so I have a quick story that has nothing to do with anything. But in 1997, the Alliant Energy powerhouse played host to the only wrestling pay-per-view where they had the bad guys, the NWO at the time. They ran the pay-per-view. And so whenever the good guys would run out, like when they would get announced and everyone was like cheering them, and then there'd be like this little voice like loser, 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 and the refs were like all in their pockets, kind of like the LSU refs were in their pockets the other night. And so it was. I think was it WrestleMania this weekend? So that reminded me of it. That reminded me of it. So it's fresh on the mind. And I saw corrupt officiating, which I have. If you guys want to read, I got a column.
Go read Andy's column. It's great.
Yep. We'll talk a little bit about the Iowa LSU controversy, which has just blown up, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has.
It's literally blown up into like a national thing. Who wants that? What Hunter, in your best words, could you explain what happened in the LSU Iowa women's basketball game?
Well, so first off, Iowa versus LSU, the women national championship. And obviously the game, started, everything was fine. Iowa jumps out to an early, 7-3 lead.
7-3 lead, yep.
And, all of a sudden, from probably that point on, the fouls were just
egregious.
Just like there were some that were fouls, but there were some that like even the announcers were like Rebecca Lobo was, I can't remember the guy's name, but Rebecca Lobo was like, that's not even a foul. Like they're not even touching her. Like,
yes.
It was both ways for it was both ways for a while actually. Like they were calling just bad both ways, and then obviously we get to the point where Cesano gets her fifth foul and late in the game, and then Caitlin Clark gets teed up for her fifth foul, and and then it just kept getting worse after that. I mean, from an Iowa fan's perspective, because then it was pretty much we were just getting killed inside, and but I mean, it was tough to watch.
It was tough to watch, and
like it was like feeling like such a great game at the start, like it was gonna be so good, and then it's like even both teams' superstars like got in foul trouble, and it was like it's not even gonna be the superstars like game. Which shout out to the LSU girl who was averaging 2 points, and then all of a sudden went 7 for 7 or 5 for 5 from 3.
Yeah,
so did not see that coming. But
LSU's guards had shot horribly from outside.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they were just immaculate, and those runners were great. So they did a great job. So first off, if anyone did watch and wants my bias review, I would say Iowa looked, read my column in the newspaper today. Or as Iowa looked great like in the first couple of minutes. Yep. Caitlin Clark hit 4 threes in the first quarter. Yeah. They're all from rock and jock range.
She pulled
from
one
deep.
from that was like a 35-footer.
Yes. Too. So everything was working out. Then all of a sudden the bogus calls, which handcuffed Cesano and Warnock, our two post players, immediately. By the way, I say our, we're journalists, but like we don't cover Iowa, so we're gonna say our us. So
I went to Iowa, so I would say that.
Yeah, you went to Iowa, yeah. So you have every right. I've just been
I'll say our.
Yeah, our. Well, and it's Iowa, it's us. And then so just the north and south of it is that they were, for better words, just robbing us on the foul calls. Yeah. And Iowa was down like 21 points. Yeah. Then all of a sudden, the refs decided, we've done enough. It's 21 points. We should start calling it fair. And then Iowa comes back, makes it 7. Mm-hmm. Then the refs now called a ticky-tack foul on Cesano, as everyone knows unless you've been living under a rock. And then Caitlin Clark the ball dribbled past her, and she caught it and kind of threw it behind her back.
Yeah.
And you know why they gave her a technical, because the refs knew that was a bogus call on Cesano.
The explanation actually was, though. It came out.
They said it was a delay of game or something.
Which they I guess, they gave him a warning earlier. Apparently, but I don't know.
Bogus. Meanwhile, so Kim Mulkey, who is probably on the...
Kim Mulkey's standing out of half court.
Yeah.
That was funny. And she was grabbing the refs, too. Man, people were mad about that.
Yeah, she's physically grabbing the refs. Now, she's on the Mount Rushmore of women's basketball coaches probably now, right?
She's one of
4
national titles.
It's her, Pat Summit.
U.S., UConn, not U.S., UConn.
Gino Oriema.
Oriema, yep.
And then, I don't know, Don Staley might be in there. South Carolina's been pretty good for a little bit.
Too, I think.
But either way, for some reason in college basketball, if you're one of the powerful coaches, you can just get away with murder. It doesn't matter. And so she just grabbed the ref.
Read the column.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot still boiling inside of me. And I feel like when stuff like this happens, people can let it all out and then it's let it go. But I just have a rejuvenating, all the passion that goes through my body. It just like refills.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to talk to people today about it, and they're like, yeah, we're kind of over that. And I'm like, over that? How can you be over that? Like, it's a travesty of epic proportions. So then after the game.
Yeah, but we did this. I can tell this is just boiling right here.
Yeah. So whatever. Like, I'm pro trash talk big time.
Yeah.
In fact, the only thing I bring to any athletic team that I've ever been a part of is trash talk. That's my number one. If you had like my sliders on 2K,
you were rated number 1 in trash talk.
yeah, trash talk's up there. Even for me, who I have pretty clean language, which is pretty tough to be up there in trash talk and also keep the clean language. But I find ways around it. Yeah, Phillip Rivers. I'd say I'm better than Phillip Rivers. But and then all the other sliders are probably down. But Angel Reese, who is LSU's, I did a little bit of a slight in the column just because she was making me mad. I just referred to her as their 4th leading scorer because she only scored 15.
She was.
And she had 3 teammates who scored 20. And she went after our golden girl, Caitlin Clark, Iowa High School basketball's own Caitlin Clark, who was too nice to rip her in the media because she's just been all class, Caitlin Clark has been.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, she got basically clapped at the little "you can't see me" thing.
Pointed
the ring thing, just stalked her around the court. Reese did. And by the way, I feel like no one's talking about this. No one would have the guts like we do to go on camera and talk about this, but we do because we're Southeast Iowa Union Sports Talk. And then ripped her in the post-game press conference, ripped her on Instagram, which I don't have. I just heard about that.
On.
Yeah, and then Alexis Morris. Somehow the LSU players.
And Alexis Morris was like, what, did you see that video of waiting before the game, like to meet up with her?
Really?
Like before the game, she met up with her and was like, "Hey, what's up?" I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense. Here's one thing that doesn't make any sense. So LSU, by the way, first off, Iowa probably would have wrecked LSU if they didn't call a million fouls, and if Iowa didn't have to play South Carolina 2 days earlier.
Yeah.
And LSU, so they get by whatever they win. They played really good. And Angel Reese is really good.
LSU did play really good.
I really like Aliyah Boston from South Carolina. She seems really cool. I think Angel Reese has been better this year. They have she has way better stats when they play in the same conference.
Rebounder in the country.
Yeah, so she's really good. And I would never rip on her by saying that she used to be a Maryland player and then bailed on them to play in a super team like everybody does, it seems these days. And that's funny. I have a friend from Minnesota who's a big Paige Buchers fan who will be back next year.
Yep.
Arguably, she's just as good as she's really close to where Caitlin Clark is.
Yep.
But she was a Minnesotan as he is.
Yep.
And then she went to UConn. So I always say, why are you still a fan of her? She bailed on you guys. Like Caitlin Clark's from Iowa. She went to Iowa.
Right. And I'm pretty sure Caitlin Clark, I don't know what her best offer had to be, like UConn, right?
I don't know. I remember seeing her in high school. I didn't see her live, but at the state tournament.
I need to look that up because I'm curious.
I was like, she's going to be a freaking superstar. So anyway, so then afterwards, I'm like, okay, like that was egregious what LSU just did, right?
Yep.
They were somehow slighted, by the way, that Iowa beat South Carolina because apparently LSU and South Carolina are just best buds.
Oh yeah, because they're in the SEC.
Because they're in the SEC. Here we go again with the SEC teams. Like, at what point is this not collusion? You gonna start trading players back and forth or something?
I did see where they're like, yeah, when they wanted to earn some respect because Caitlin shrugged off the
South Carolina girl,
and then they're like, that's still our SEC sisters or whatever. I'm like,
makes no sense.
You got beat by 20 by South Carolina earlier in the season. They're 25 or something.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And then, so the thing that really bothered me wasn't that it happened, and I like villains, and to Angel Reese's credit, like she wasn't trying, she was just being the same in the press conference, like she's a villain.
The only thing I didn't like, I was completely fine with everything because, Caitlin, like even mentioned, like we was talking before this, loves to talk trash, like we'll say, like she told Lith from Louisville, like, shut up, you're down 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
She says stuff like that. So, like, I get that. I just didn't like how they made it out to be that Iowa was being, like, slighted them in some way before, like, the game. Like that all of a sudden, like, they were talking crap, like it was something more, like, they were playing for something more personal than, like, to obviously to win or whatever, but, like they made us, like, seem like we were
like the bad guys,
all this crap, and like, I don't know,
which is insanity.
That's like the only thing I was like, well, I don't know where all this is coming from about how like Iowa disrespected you. Like, I don't.
Yeah, and so then you look and you're like, all right, surely surely the national media is smart enough to realize like what's going on here, but they're not, because every member of ESPN, Fox Sports, any bigwig thing totally stood on the side of LSU. And this is another thing that like, they're like, oh, Caitlin Clark was doing the same thing because she did this for like 1 second, one time, apparently to her bench. I don't know if it was to her bench or to
I think it was.
Haley Van Lith from Louisville, who talks a lot of trash. I love Haley Van Lith.
She talks a lot. She's great.
She's fantastic. And then that is, if you think that that's the same thing as stalking somebody around the court after the game, you are insane. You're an insane person. I think if you think that it's the same thing, you should lose your right to vote. Because I think your mental capacity isn't there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then the Iowa players are too like nice and classy.
Yeah.
If God, this is why God didn't give me the ability to be a Division I basketball player. Because if that was me, this would have been my post-game interview. Ask me something about. I'm Caitlin Clark in an alternate universe where it's actually me. Just ask me anything about the game.
What did you think of Angel Reese following you around the court there, giving you the pointing to her ring finger and doing the you can't see me motion? Yeah, well, I don't know. That was pretty interesting. I didn't see her much on the court because she was their fourth leading scorer. And I know she got a lot of free throws from the refs and stuff, but that was weird. She didn't do any trash talking until the very end was the thing that really surprised me. So it took me a second to figure out who the heck was following me around. But that was weird. And, I wish the refs would have let us play so we could have beat her. I wouldn't have acted like that. But I guess, whatever. We'll see her next year and we'll see if we can pay her back. Got any more questions for me? Sounds good to me. Yeah, that's how it should have been, but it's not. Because all the Iowa players have been like, oh no, we have so much respect for LSU, which they probably do. LSU's a really good team. Yeah. And, nothing about that. Which, by the way, as nice as they're saying that to the media, under their breath. They're like, I cannot wait for next year. What Iowa needs is they need a disruptor. Yeah. They need someone like a Dennis Rodman or a Draymond Green or an Andy Kretzinger. Going back to South Carolina, I still couldn't. Andy Kretzinger, I couldn't believe that we gave up 27 offensive boards. That was crazy. South Carolina and still won. That's something else they need. X's and O's. They need someone to just like box out and get more defensive rebounds. But they need someone that can. And I think that it's a team of nice. They're all nice. Yeah. They kind of represent Iowa. Like hard-nosed grit. We do. We need someone that can get in trouble and can be a little bit of a villain. Yeah. I think, but we don't have that. Yeah. And so I think it's our job as Iowans to not just sit around and take it. And we need to be the ones who take our hands and plunge it in the filth and stand up for the great state of Iowa. Yeah. And I haven't seen a lot of that, and I'm upset. The Barstool's president, Dave Portnoy, did for a while. He went off on it. He went off. That was great. He actually, kind of the same explanation as you. If you think it's the same thing, you are absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. They're crazy. It's definitely not like the trash talk was like the taunting level of it was definitely not on the same level for sure. No, it's a totally different thing. Waiting until the end of trash talk. And I think when Caitlin did it was like in the middle of the game too. Like I don't know if it was in the fourth quarter. I can't remember if it was in the fourth quarter or not, but it must third or fourth quarter maybe. I don't know. But anyway, in the final seconds when the game was over, yeah. It's crazy. And what should happen and what might happen, I don't think Iowa would. I don't know that Iowa will beat LSU next year, and I don't know if they'll even play because I think UConn's going to be real good next year. Yeah. South Carolina's going to be good. But if they do and Iowa would win, in my fantasy land, someone would just give it right back twice as hard. Just like for one whole minute of the game, just follow around and stare in her face. Just worth the tea. yeah, just get technical. Who cares? Beat them by enough where you can afford that. Yeah. But that won't happen. Right. But if that did happen, all the people on the Twitter sphere and on ESPN, Shannon Sharp, was saying something. I never watched the Shannon and Skip show. I can't stand Skip Bayless, so that's just me. Both. I mean, they're funny usually, but then when an actual sports thing, I got on the screaming heads on ESPN because the people on those shows are the dumbest people that walk on planet Earth today. Yeah. And I got tricked by but they seem to be genuinely taking LSU side on it. Shaq.
Shaquille O'Neal, who went to LSU, who, by the way, has one of his NBA rings is because Tim Donaghy rigged their game against Sacramento. So I guess he's just used to getting officials' help. He was out and he was out there, talking stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
I love Inside the NBA, but I mean, I'm drawing the line. So if you're on LSU side, you're on LSU's. Right here today on February the 4th, 2023, I'm declaring war on LSU, on Louisiana State University, and every facet of the internet games. I have thought about buying tickets to a game that they're going and just being a fan for whatever team they're playing and just heckling them because that would make me feel better.
That'd be
not necessarily the women's basketball team, just anybody.
And you'd be on TV if you were on courtside just screaming. You'd be like one of the fans there that, I mean, in the case of NBA, when Russell Westbrook's known for getting people kicked out, you'd be like one of those. Maybe don't say as bad as things as they say, but to get kicked out, I guess. But
to get thrown out of the game.
Thrown out of the game.
Well, you can get thrown out of the game for anything nowadays because after LeBron kicked that, I think they said something egregious. But after LeBron kicked that one fan out, everyone's getting kicked.
People are getting kicked out left and right now.
The Suns used to pay a guy to heckle Michael Jordan when in the 90s.
Yeah,
and then everyone's so soft now that you can't even go and heckle. You get thrown out of your $1 billion seat.
Yep.
So I would love to do that. But either way, it doesn't matter. In general, I'm drawing the line on the sand right now. I expect that you and Nikki Brackets are on my side. And I am okay with the Iowa nice people can, they can sit quietly. And I will be one of the people that stands up to the bullies like Shaq and Shannon Sharp.
Yep.
And I'll be on the front lines. I know my following isn't high enough, but I don't care. I'll be right there, side by side with who am I side by side with now?
Dave Portnoy.
Dave Portnoy, kind of Jill Biden because she tried to invite the Iowa women to the White House, which that was a bad idea. I was saying earlier that she was she walked into a hurricane.
Yeah, that wasn't the best decision.
Yeah, this is almost political talk, but not really.
Which I think we can agree that Iowa shouldn't be invited to the White House.
No. And they rescinded it. There's no way Iowa would have been. That would have been a dumb move. They wouldn't have accepted. They would have politely declined.
I think it was. She just kind of said it like, "Oh yeah, it'd be nice to have both teams."
Yes.
And then everyone just runs with it.
She was trying to be a peacemaker.
Everyone's like,
she was walking in saying maybe both teams could come. Teams do, and then all of a sudden the storms just whoosh, and then all the LSU players started ripping her on Twitter. And so, man, and now we've got the U.S. federal government on our side, allegedly. But then they came out and they're like, nope, we were wrong. You're right, LSU. Ha ha. So that's why we need to step up and stand up for what's. I can't see injustice and just sit back and watch it happen.
You have to take a stand.
I have to take a stand. I guess everybody else can, except me and 3 other people. Keith Olbermann randomly was on Iowa's side.
Yeah.
And then Shaq got into it with him. I've been deep into the mud on this.
You've been digging deep to see. You're like, who's siding with us? Who am I never listening to again or whatever?
Yes. Oh, I'm from now on. I love Inside the NBA. Maybe I don't know if I can boycott it during the playoffs, but I'll at least roll my eyes when Shaq is talking. Ben Simmons. I'm going to be a bigger Ben Simmons hater than anyone in the world. Who else went to LSU? Anybody?
I mean, is this going to extend to Joe Burrow come the NFL season?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Oh, yeah.
I like Joe Burrow. I like calling Kansas City Burrowhead, but he choked. Typical LSU, he choked. Well, and Odell Beckham Jr., right?
Yep.
Which, how much did they pay him to go to the school? That's another thing that I probably shouldn't be saying. I probably they got in trouble for that, right? Didn't they get in trouble for that?
I don't think so.
At the risk of being slanderous, LSU should enjoy their title now because in that school's history, it usually gets taken away from recruiting problems anyway. So there you go. You got it. You got it now. Enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah. So I don't know. I declare war on LSU. Whatever. I'll play the clip of Drew Tate's Hail Mary 50 times a day from now until the beginning of women's basketball season.
Great moment, huh? That's a great
moment. They deserved that, and they deserve that to happen every single game.
Oh, never mind. That was Florida. Never mind.
Oh, we're talking about the refs?
The onside kick. Yeah.
Well, that's up. LSU and Florida, no difference because the SEC, they're all in one big team, obviously.
Good point.
You slight one, you slide them all. So I wish the Big Ten had that kind of unity. So whatever. USC's coming along, and I'm ready. I will be the first one to put my foot forward.
I love it.
And you guys are number 2 and 3.
All right.
So we're all 33% right now Anybody wants to join
Well,
the pirate ship over here?
Until the slander case comes in.
Yeah, then
And then we're not.
Andy's by himself on that one.
All right, well, that's fine. That's fine. I'll go to court.
I'll accept
hey,
anything.
hey, guess who was a best witness at regional mock trial when he was in middle school? This guy.
Oh,
They couldn't
man.
do anything to me. I'm untouchable. So come after me, Shaq's lawyers. I dare you. Anyway, I just want to talk about it. We need to stop the show,
That's all we got.
but I got a lot of fire in me, so someone else probably needs
That
to
was
stop
a
the show.
20-minute rant.
Yeah.
Actually, probably a 25-minute rant.
Is that a 25-minute rant?
It's 2:12.
Probably have to go. I have so much more to say. And by the way, one more thing: the people that say like you can't talk about it, people are saying you can't talk about it because it's women's sports.
Yeah.
It's like treat them like the men. Don't rip on them. Like in what world do people not rip on male athletes?
Yeah.
In what universe? People online, I speak directly to you.
You're saying like we're like if a man would have done it, no one would have said anything.
Yeah, like that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. If could you imagine like if Russell Westbrook would have done that, he would be rightfully like vilified for years. And so whatever. That's part of equality. And I like it. And I do like that everyone care mostly because Iowa's really good at the women's
Yep.
game right now. I like that everyone really was into the women's tournament. I know a ton of women's players. Everyone does. They're like household names now. The men's championship was on last night, and if it wasn't for Nikki Brackett's chances to win the men's tournament challenge, it was no one cared. People
Yeah.
were arguing about the women's tournament online during the men's tournament, so that's good. And I've always said, people always say the WNBA doesn't get very good ratings.
Yep.
Like if these girls go into the WNBA and they're trash talking like they do now, and there's controversy, people will start watching it.
Right.
Like that's all you need is you just need characters. So
Right, exactly.
good. And I've got my characters. So I hope you guys do too.
Yeah.
All right. I just stopped talking. Somebody else better sign us off.
You want to?
Huh? All right, I'll
I'm
sign us
just
off.
kidding. You can. You've done so well at explaining
Yes.
your side, and
Yes.
I love it.
Any lawyers out there that are wondering what show you're watching, you are watching Undisputed with Skip and Shannon on ESPN.
Except
So-
I'm not taking like I guess too hard of a point that Skip might be saying or Shannon might be saying.
I was just trying to say so they didn't come after us. But you're watching Southeast Iowa Union Sports
good
Talk. Shout out to everyone who supports this show. And if you support this show, you support everything we're saying every single day. You're co-signing every single thing that we said today. So we appreciate you. You can catch us on Washington, Mount Pleasant, and Fairfield by Facebook.
Yep.
Washington YouTube. We're Tuesdays at 1:00. That's all I have for Hunter Moeller and Nikki Brackett's.
Nikki Brackett.
We will see you
When?
tomorrow night. We'll see if LSU's still got that championship or they take it away yet.
We'll talk about this next.